Does your child have a strong sense of justice and fairness? It's something I see in the coaching work I do with families pretty consistently. And what I also see is that the moment a fairness dispute starts, the parent moves almost immediately into logic mode, and the logic makes complete sense. You might say something like, well, your sister got new shoes because hers were worn out, or he got medicine because he was sick. But the child is more upset after the explanation than before, and the parent is sometimes left wondering, what just happened? Today we're going to talk about what did just happen and what to do about it when those situations arise. When your autistic child announces, that's not fair, they aren't just complaining and they're not trying to make your life harder. What they're actually doing is quite logical. They're using a system to make sense of a world that is often unpredictable and hard to navigate for them. Fairness is a structure, it's a rule, and autistic brains in many cases are deeply oriented toward rules, right? Toward knowing that if A happens, B follows, consistently, every time. But here's where it gets complicated. For many of our kids, fair doesn't mean equitable, it means identical. Same bedtime, same consequence, same portion, the exact same. And when something looks unequal, different shoes, a different treat, a different response from you, it doesn't register as slightly off. For their nervous system, the whole system feels broken. We might see the issue as small, but through their lens, something genuinely went wrong. And when your brain depends on predictability, a broken system isn't a minor irritation, it's a crisis. So what do most of us do in that moment? We explain, we lay out perfectly reasonable logic. Something like, your sister got new pants because hers didn't fit anymore. Or your brother got to go to a birthday party because he was invited. Remember, you went to a birthday party last week. And they look at us like we've completely missed the point. Or they get more upset. Here's what I've come to understand about that. Explanation on its own, it skips a step. It goes straight to the information before their nervous system is ready to receive it. Think about it this way. If someone came to you in the middle of being genuinely overwhelmed, and the very first thing they did was explain why you were wrong, you'd stop listening. You'd pull back. That's not stubbornness. That's a nervous system protecting itself, and our kids are no different. The problem isn't the logic we're offering, it's that the door isn't open yet. So we need to start where they are. That means validation, and there's an important distinction here. Validation doesn't mean agreeing that something was unfair. It doesn't mean saying you're right. It means I see what this looks like from where you're standing. It means you care a lot about things being the same, and I can see that. That didn't look equal to you. I understand. From where you're looking at this, something felt off. That's the first step, and it matters because when a child feels genuinely heard, when their perception is acknowledged rather than immediately dismissed or corrected, there's space for the nervous system to settle. And in that space, something new can actually come in. Without that step, nothing else lands. Not the logic, not the explanation, not the solution. Now, sometimes this plays out in ways that are genuinely hard to anticipate. So let's start with this scenario. Two kids are offered a snack. Each one is completely free to choose whatever snack they want. One picks apples and the other picks crackers. And the autistic child gets upset because they're not having the same thing. You as the parent might explain, well, everyone likes different things and that's okay. And that explanation might help until the next day when the sibling happens to pick the same snack as your autistic child. And suddenly, that's the problem. The parent tries offering the same option to both, then letting each child choose first, then matching portions exactly, and none of it resolves the issue because the issue isn't really the snack. It's an internal rule that has been built, and now the rule is running the show. Here's another example. Your child comes home and they are quietly furious. Someone in their class whispered to a friend during quiet work time and the teacher let it go. But 3 weeks ago, your child whispered and got a consequence. Same behavior, different outcome. From the outside, we can imagine a dozen reasons why that might have happened. Different timing, different context, the teacher was in a different moment. But for your child, the rule is the rule. And if the rule applies to them, it applies to everyone, every time, no exceptions. Maybe your child didn't say anything at school, they held it together, got through the rest of the day, and you found out about it at 4 p.m. when everything came out at once. Of course, these aren't bad behaviors. They're a child grappling with the world through a very rigid internal system and experiencing a kind of collapse when that system doesn't hold. Once they do feel heard through the validation, there's a window, and that's when you can introduce a different angle. Not tell them that they're wrong, but let their brain try on something new. The key is to try to step sideways. And by that I mean step away from the exact example you're talking about. Slightly removed examples might land better than anything connected directly to what just happened. You might give an example of, what if a player on the soccer team sprained their ankle, but the coach kept them in for the full game because everyone else was playing the same amount of time, and that's the rule. Same time for everyone. Would that feel right? Or you might try another example like, what if a student in class breaks their arm and can't hold a pencil, so the teacher lets them type, and now every other student wants to type too because otherwise it isn't equal. These aren't trick questions, they're thought experiments, an invitation for your child's brain to try on a different perspective without feeling like their logic is being attacked. And let me say this clearly, sometimes the logic won't shift. Your child will say, yeah, the kid with the sprained ankle should be out on the soccer field the whole time. It's only fair. Or everyone should be able to type, because otherwise it's not fair. Your child's logic doesn't fail to shift because you said the wrong thing, but because that's where your child is right now. And that's why the goal isn't always flexibility. Sometimes we're working on tolerance. Tolerance for a world that doesn't run on identical rules. Tolerance for the discomfort of seeing things that feel uneven. Tolerance for the gap between what their internal system said should happen and what actually does. This is some of the deepest work we do as parents of autistic children, and it counts, even when you can't see the progress. Here's the big picture. Your child's sense of justice is a form of integrity. They hold everyone, hopefully including themselves, to a consistent standard. And that kind of moral clarity, as it matures, as nuance develops over time, can become a genuinely remarkable asset. Our job right now isn't to change who they are, it's to help them carry this in a world that won't always match their rulebook. That means giving them language for what they're experiencing, tools for regulation when their system breaks down, and a steady presence that doesn't require their logic to be perfect before they can feel connected to you. You are that steady presence, and that matters far more than getting every explanation exactly right. So if your home has ever felt like a courtroom and you've somehow ended up as both the defendant and the judge, you're in very good company here. This is part of raising an autistic child with a strong sense of justice and a very specific view of how things should work. And understanding what's underneath that is the place to start. I'd love to hear from you. What's one fairness situation in your house that completely caught you off guard? One where your child's logic went somewhere you really didn't expect? If you could drop it in the comment section, that would be so helpful. Those stories help other parents feel less alone, and they genuinely help me understand what to make videos about. Also, they're often hilarious, and we appreciate that about our kids. If this video gave you a new way of looking at or thinking about fairness in your home, I hope you'll consider subscribing, giving it a like, and I'll see you in the next one.